Every morning begins the same way for millions of people. The quiet hum of a coffee machine, the soft drip of dark liquid filling a favorite mug, and the comforting warmth that seems to promise energy, focus, and clarity. It feels harmless, necessary even. For many over 50, it's more than a ritual, it's a survival mechanism. The day doesn't begin until that first sip hits the tongue. But what if this very habit, the one that brings you comfort and motivation, has hidden dangers quietly shaping how your body ages, how your heart beats, and how your brain functions long after you finish your cup? It's not the coffee itself that's dangerous. In fact, in moderate amounts, coffee has been shown to offer benefits: protection for the brain, antioxidants for the heart, and even a lower risk of some diseases. The real danger lies in the mistakes most people unknowingly make around their coffee ritual. Subtle choices that turn something beneficial into something silently harmful. Mistakes that seem innocent, but over time can drain energy, strain the heart, and alter the chemistry of a body that's no longer 25. You might think, I've been drinking coffee for decades. How could something so normal suddenly be a problem? But as we age, the body's metabolism slows, hormone levels shift, and the organs that once processed caffeine effortlessly begin to struggle. The same cup that once gave a smooth burst of alertness now lingers longer in your bloodstream, affecting sleep, blood sugar, and even blood pressure. The truth is, what your body tolerated in your 30s may now quietly work against you in your 50s and beyond. The first mistake begins before the cup even touches your lips. It starts with timing. Many people wake up and within minutes reach for coffee, before water, before food, before anything else. But here's what most don't realize. When you first wake, your body naturally produces cortisol, a hormone designed to boost energy, sharpen focus, and gently raise blood sugar. It's your body's own internal coffee. Drinking caffeine at this moment can disrupt that natural rhythm, suppressing your own cortisol cycle. Over time, this can lead to greater fatigue, dependence on caffeine, and a confused internal clock that makes mornings harder, not easier. Imagine this. Your body wakes up ready to energize itself naturally. Then, before it even has the chance, caffeine floods your system, tricking your brain into thinking it's already done the job. So the next morning, your body produces less cortisol. The day after, even less. Soon your natural energy system is weaker, and you rely entirely on caffeine just to feel normal. That's why so many people say they feel exhausted until their second cup. It's not that they need more coffee, it's that their body forgot how to wake up on its own. The second mistake is something that feels even more innocent: drinking coffee on an empty stomach. Especially common among those trying to lose weight or kickstart metabolism. But here's the science. Caffeine increases stomach acid production. Without food to buffer it, that acid irritates the stomach lining. Over time, this constant exposure can lead to gastritis, reflux, or subtle digestive issues that manifest as bloating, nausea, or an uneasy feeling that people dismiss as just getting older. The truth is, your stomach isn't aging. It's reacting. The caffeine you're drinking without food is essentially burning the lining from the inside, one sip at a time. And the consequences don't stop at the stomach. When you drink coffee without food, it also causes a spike in adrenaline, your fight-or-flight hormone. That jolt can feel good temporarily, but for those over 50, especially with blood pressure concerns or heart sensitivity, this sudden rush can be dangerous. Your heart beats faster, blood vessels constrict, and blood pressure rises. The body interprets the caffeine surge as stress, not energy. Over time, this can lead to higher baseline cortisol, slower metabolism, and stubborn belly fat that refuses to go away even when you're eating right. The third mistake is what you mix into your cup. For many, coffee without sugar feels incomplete. Maybe it's a teaspoon of sugar, maybe two, maybe flavored creamer, or a splash of syrup. But here's the truth. These additives turn your coffee into a metabolic bomb. Sugar, especially refined sugar and artificial creamers, causes rapid spikes and crashes in blood glucose. For people over 50, whose insulin sensitivity naturally declines, this roller coaster accelerates inflammation and energy swings. The body goes from high alert to sudden fatigue. And because caffeine masks tiredness, you don't feel the crash, You just feel the craving for another cup. It becomes a self-feeding loop of stimulation and depletion. Now imagine doing this every morning for years. The body begins to associate alertness not with energy, but with sugar and caffeine together. The pancreas works harder, the liver stores more fat, and blood vessels lose elasticity. Studies have shown that this combination, caffeine plus sugar, amplifies insulin spikes more than sugar alone. It's like adding gasoline to a fire, and if you've ever wondered why you can't seem to lose weight or keep your blood sugar stable despite eating healthy, this could be the invisible culprit sitting in your mug. The fourth mistake is dehydration. Coffee is a diuretic. It tells your kidneys to release more water. That's why you may notice more frequent trips to the bathroom after your morning coffee. But few realize that this effect can leave you subtly dehydrated by midday. Even mild dehydration thickens the blood, strains the heart, and slows down brain function. You may mistake it for fatigue or brain fog, but in reality your body is simply running low on water. For older adults, this is especially concerning. The sense of thirst diminishes with age, meaning you may not feel thirsty even when your body is craving hydration. Picture this. You wake up slightly dehydrated, normal after a night's sleep. Instead of rehydrating, you start your day with a diuretic, losing more water. Hours later you feel sluggish, your concentration fades, and your heart beats a little faster climbing the stairs. Most assume it's just getting older, but often it's simply a body begging for hydration. That's why many doctors recommend a glass of water before coffee, not after. It replenishes what you lost overnight and softens caffeine's dehydrating effects. The fifth mistake is temperature, and it's one almost no one thinks about. Scalding hot coffee might feel satisfying on a cold morning, but research shows that regularly drinking very hot liquids can damage the delicate cells lining the esophagus. Over time, this repeated irritation may increase the risk of inflammation and even esophageal complications. It's not the coffee, it's the heat. When coffee is consumed above 149 degrees Celsius, 65 degrees Celsius, the risk rises significantly. Yet most home brewers pour it much hotter. Allowing your coffee to cool for just a few minutes before drinking isn't just about comfort, it's protection. The sixth mistake lies in the timing of your second cup. Many people reach for a refill mid-morning, around 10 or 11 a.m., a time when the body's natural energy is still adjusting. But drinking caffeine too close to midday can interfere with the gradual decline of cortisol that helps prepare your body for rest later. When caffeine lingers in your system for too long, it pushes your natural bedtime further back, even if you don't realize it. You may fall asleep, but your sleep cycles are lighter, your deep sleep shorter, and your body's recovery incomplete. The next morning you wake up more tired and reach for even more caffeine. This is how the cycle of dependency strengthens. And then there's the seventh mistake, the quietest yet most damaging one. Ignoring your body's warning signs. Tremors, anxiety, rapid heartbeat, irritability. These are signals that your nervous system is overstimulated. But because caffeine has become synonymous with productivity, most people dismiss them. I just had a strong coffee. Yet behind those small symptoms, the body is screaming for balance. As we age, our liver metabolizes caffeine more slowly. What once took 3 hours to clear might now take 5 or 6. That means by evening, your morning caffeine may still be active, subtly altering hormones like melatonin and insulin. So the problem isn't coffee, it's the habits built around it. The mistimed cups, the additives, the dehydration, the heat, the neglect of warning signs, and because coffee is culturally celebrated, few ever question these patterns. It becomes part of identity. I'm a coffee person. But beneath that identity lies a system quietly adapting, compensating, sometimes struggling. The heart works a bit harder. The stomach becomes more sensitive. The brain fluctuates between alertness and exhaustion, and with each passing year, these small imbalances accumulate. Imagine your morning as a system. Your brain, your adrenal glands, your heart, your gut, they all communicate. When balanced, they create calm energy, clarity, and focus. But when caffeine enters that system at the wrong time, in the wrong way, it scrambles the signal. Your brain believes it's under stress. Your heart beats faster, your digestion slows, your adrenal glands release cortisol and adrenaline unnecessarily. You feel awake but not at peace, alert but not grounded. Over time, that's what chronic caffeine misuse does. It replaces steady energy with artificial urgency. Yet, the story doesn't end in fear. It begins with awareness, because the power of small corrections is enormous. Drinking water first, eating before your cup, allowing the body's natural rhythm to rise before caffeine enters, avoiding sugar, letting the cup cool. These seem simple, but for those over 50, these habits can mean the difference between constant fatigue and sustained vitality. They restore balance to a system that's been overloaded for too long. So before your next morning coffee, pause, feel your heartbeat, notice your breath. Ask yourself, not out of guilt, but curiosity, am I helping my body wake up? Or am I forcing it? Because the truth is, energy isn't something you pour from a mug, it's something your body creates when treated with respect. And your morning ritual, that sacred few minutes of peace, can either accelerate aging or become one of the simplest ways to protect your health for years to come. The danger with morning coffee isn't in the cup itself. It's in the chain reaction it sets off throughout your body when certain mistakes are repeated day after day, year after year. Most people over 50 underestimate just how sensitive their systems have become to caffeine, sugar, dehydration, and hormonal disruption. What once seemed harmless, a steaming mug before breakfast, now carries physiological consequences that the body can no longer disguise as easily. When you were younger, your metabolism burned through caffeine like kindling. Now, every sip lingers. It changes how your heart pumps, how your stomach digests, how your brain signals fatigue. It even alters how your body perceives hunger, thirst, and rest. The first risk lies in cortisol disruption, that quiet hormonal imbalance caused by caffeine consumed too early. Cortisol isn't your enemy. It's essential. It helps you wake up, regulates your metabolism, and keeps your blood sugar steady. But it works in cycles, rising naturally in the morning, then tapering off through the day. When you drink coffee the moment you wake, you're throwing that system into confusion. Caffeine forces an artificial rise in cortisol levels at the wrong time, leaving your body less responsive to its natural cues. Over months and years, this can lead to what doctors call adrenal fatigue, a misfiring of your body's stress response system. You feel wired in the morning but drained by afternoon. Sleep doesn't refresh you because your hormonal rhythm is out of sync. The irony is that most people respond by drinking even more coffee. The body, desperate for balance, receives another caffeine jolt. The adrenal glands, already overstimulated, release more cortisol and adrenaline. The heart rate quickens, blood sugar rises, muscles tighten. What feels like energy is actually stress chemistry. This is why many older adults find themselves increasingly anxious or restless after coffee, something that never happened when they were younger. The caffeine isn't stronger. The body's tolerance is weaker. And this hormonal imbalance has ripple effects far beyond mood or energy. Chronically elevated cortisol accelerates aging at the cellular level. It shortens telomeres, the protective caps at the end of your DNA strands that determine how fast your cells age. The shorter they become, the faster you experience the visible and invisible signs of aging: fatigue, muscle loss, skin thinning, and slower healing. So, that innocent morning mistake, coffee before the body wakes naturally, can quietly add years to your biological clock. The second risk comes from what happens in your digestive system when coffee is consumed on an empty stomach. Coffee increases gastric acid secretion, a fact well known in medicine. In young, resilient stomachs, that acid is buffered by a thick mucosal layer. But after 50, that lining becomes thinner and more fragile. Combine that with reduced stomach motility and slower digestive enzyme production, and you have a perfect setup for chronic irritation. Many older adults who believe they have mild reflux or just sensitive digestion are actually experiencing the cumulative effects of years of acidic stimulation from coffee taken without food. Inside, this looks like microinflammation. The acid splashes against the stomach wall, creating tiny lesions. These don't bleed or cause sharp pain, but they inflame. The vagus nerve, which connects your gut to your brain, senses that inflammation and signals discomfort. You feel jittery, nauseous, or uneasy after coffee and can't explain why. You assume it's the caffeine, but in reality, It's the acid's effect on your gut-brain connection. That inflammation also interferes with nutrient absorption, particularly iron, magnesium, and vitamin B12, all crucial for energy, nerve health, and red blood cell production. That's why chronic coffee-on-empty drinkers often feel tired but wired. The stimulation masks the underlying depletion. And there's another layer to this: the gut microbiome. The trillions of bacteria in your digestive tract play a key role in immune function, mood regulation, and metabolism. Coffee, especially when paired with sugar or consumed without food, alters the microbial balance. It favors the growth of acid-resistant bacteria while suppressing beneficial strains like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. Over time, this imbalance, known as dysbiosis, can lead to bloating, irregular digestion, and even low-grade inflammation that spills over into the bloodstream, contributing to chronic diseases like type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Then comes the cardiovascular risk. Caffeine is a stimulant. It increases heart rate, constricts blood vessels, and raises blood pressure. For a healthy young adult, this temporary effect isn't harmful. But for someone over 50, especially those with hypertension or arterial stiffness, these surges put strain on the cardiovascular system. Each spike may seem insignificant, but imagine it happening 365 days a year, sometimes multiple times per day. Over time, the blood vessels lose flexibility. The inner lining of the arteries, called the endothelium, experiences oxidative stress. It becomes inflamed, less capable of dilating properly. This contributes to higher resting blood pressure, slower circulation, and even increased risk of plaque buildup. And yet, because coffee also contains antioxidants, people assume it balances out. But those antioxidants can't offset the repeated mechanical stress caffeine places on the cardiovascular system when used incorrectly, especially when combined with dehydration. Coffee's diuretic effect means that with every cup, your body releases not only water, but also essential electrolytes, sodium, potassium, and magnesium. These are crucial for heart rhythm. Lose too much, and you increase the risk of palpitations or irregular beats, something many chalk up to age or anxiety. But often it's biochemical. The heart simply doesn't have the fluid and minerals it needs to function smoothly. Next, the blood sugar effect, often overlooked but extremely important for those over 50. Caffeine temporarily reduces insulin sensitivity. This means that after your morning cup, especially if paired with sugar, cream, or pastry, your body becomes less capable of using insulin effectively. Glucose stays longer in your bloodstream, forcing the pancreas to work harder. For pre-diabetic or insulin-resistant individuals, this creates dangerous swings. You might feel alert for an hour or two, then crash hard, hungry, irritable, fatigued. This pattern not only affects mood, but also contributes to long-term metabolic dysfunction. What makes it worse is timing. If your first meal comes hours after coffee, your body remains in a fasted, stressed state. Cortisol stays high, blood sugar unstable, and appetite signals distorted. You might crave carbs later, not because you're weak, but because your body's chemistry was hijacked early in the day. Doctors often advise patients to balance caffeine with food, but few realize how literal that advice is. Food slows caffeine absorption, moderates its effects, and protects the stomach and pancreas from the roller coaster that otherwise unfolds. The neurological risks are subtle but profound. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine, a neurotransmitter that promotes relaxation and sleepiness. This is why you feel awake after coffee. But adenosine isn't just about sleep. It's essential for brain repair, blood flow regulation, and memory formation. When you block it repeatedly, especially early in the day before your brain chemistry stabilizes, you interfere with the brain's natural maintenance cycle. Over time, this can contribute to memory lapses, brain fog, and even accelerated cognitive fatigue. The brain becomes less efficient at switching between alertness and rest, leading to that always-on, never-calm feeling. And this doesn't even account for how caffeine affects sleep architecture. Many people assume that as long as they fall asleep, caffeine isn't a problem. But research shows that caffeine consumed even 6 hours before bed can reduce deep sleep by up to 20%. Deep sleep is when the brain clears toxins through a process called the glymphatic system. a kind of nighttime cleansing. Disrupt that, and metabolic waste accumulates. Some of those waste proteins, like beta-amyloid, are associated with neurodegenerative diseases. So while you may not feel it day to day, that second or third cup could quietly be influencing your long-term brain health. Then there's the psychological risk, dependence and anxiety. Caffeine stimulates dopamine release in the brain, creating mild euphoria, but the brain quickly adapts, reducing its own dopamine receptors. Soon, you need caffeine just to feel normal. Without it, you experience withdrawal, fatigue, irritability, headaches, even mild depression. For those over 50, whose neurotransmitter balance is already more delicate, these fluctuations can be profound. Caffeine can amplify existing anxiety, worsen insomnia, or trigger restlessness. And because it's socially accepted, few ever connect their anxiety or poor sleep to their coffee habit. They medicate the symptoms instead of addressing the cause. The heat risk, the habit of drinking coffee piping hot, poses yet another long-term danger. The esophagus isn't designed for repeated thermal stress. High-temperature liquids cause micro-damage to its lining, prompting the body to repair it continuously. Over decades, this cycle of damage and repair can lead to chronic inflammation and scarring. For people who sip scalding coffee daily, studies have shown higher rates of esophageal complications, especially when combined with reflux, a condition coffee itself can worsen. The damage is cumulative, invisible at first, but unmistakable years later. Another overlooked danger comes from timing caffeine near medication. Many common drugs used after 50, thyroid medication, blood pressure pills, osteoporosis treatments, are affected by caffeine. Coffee can reduce their absorption, amplify side effects, or accelerate excretion. For instance, caffeine increases urinary calcium loss, undermining bone density over time. For women post-menopause, this risk is particularly concerning. Bones already thinning from hormonal changes may lose even more calcium simply because of coffee timing. There's also the impact on hydration balance. Every morning, after hours without water, your body wakes up dehydrated. Blood becomes slightly thicker, kidneys concentrate waste, and cells are thirsty for replenishment. Starting that moment with a diuretic, coffee, intensifies the deficit. Dehydration affects every system. The brain, causing fogginess, the heart, increasing strain, the skin, reducing elasticity, and the joints, increasing stiffness. Yet most coffee drinkers go hours before drinking plain water. The result is subtle dehydration that accumulates over time, accelerating the aging process from the inside out. The paradox is cruel. Coffee offers short-term alertness, but long-term depletion. It's like borrowing energy from tomorrow to feel alive today. And while the body can compensate for years, eventually the cost becomes visible. Blood pressure rising, digestion slowing, sleep fragmenting, mood becoming less stable. The same ritual that once brought comfort begins to erode resilience. But awareness changes everything, because once you understand the risks, you can reclaim control. You don't have to give up coffee to protect your health. You just have to change the relationship you have with it. Because the truth is, the danger isn't in the drink. It's in the disconnection between what your body needs and what habit demands. The mistake most people make isn't ignorance, it's autopilot. They drink coffee the same way they always have, never pausing to ask whether their body has changed. But at 50, 60, 70, everything changes. Hormones shift, metabolism slows, enzymes weaken. What was once fuel becomes friction. And if you continue on autopilot, you don't just age, you accelerate it. The body gives warnings long before damage appears. A racing heart after one cup, heartburn that flares by mid-morning, an anxious restlessness that fades only after lunch. These are signals, not of weakness but of imbalance. They're invitations to adapt. Because your body isn't trying to stop you from enjoying coffee. It's asking you to drink it wisely, to match its rhythm, not override it. And when you ignore those whispers, they grow louder. Fatigue deepens, focus fades, nights become restless, weight creeps upward. The system that once balanced itself now struggles. But the good news, the part few people ever hear, is that it's reversible. Your body can recover, your adrenal rhythm can reset, your digestion can heal, your sleep can deepen again. But it starts with awareness, an honest acknowledgement that the way you drink coffee matters as much as the coffee itself. Picture a morning decades from now. You wake up before sunrise, your joints ache slightly, your heart beats a little harder than it used to, and the world outside feels slower. You reach for your cup, the same ritual you've performed every morning for years. The familiar warmth spreads through your hands, the aroma rises, and for a brief moment, everything feels right again. But inside your body, something entirely different is happening. The caffeine enters your bloodstream within minutes, pushing your adrenal glands into motion, signaling your heart to work harder, your stomach to produce acid, your liver to filter faster. What feels like calm and control on the outside is actually a quiet storm on the inside. A chain reaction triggered by years of subtle, repeated mistakes that have reshaped your body's chemistry one morning at a time. The first major impact happens at the level of your nervous system, and it's both immediate and long-term. Caffeine binds to adenosine receptors in your brain, the same receptors that normally tell your body it's time to rest. When caffeine occupies them, your brain's natural fatigue signals are silenced. You feel awake, sharp, and ready to move. But beneath that false alertness, the brain is flooded with stress signals. Adrenaline surges, noradrenaline follows. Your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight system, activates. Blood pressure rises, heart rate quickens, muscles tense. Your body believes it's preparing to face a threat, not start a peaceful morning. Over time, this false alarm becomes your default. The nervous system forgets how to relax naturally. You wake up wired, not refreshed. You go to bed tired, not calm. The line between energy and anxiety blurs until you can't tell the difference. Inside your brain, this state of constant alertness changes the way neurons communicate. Caffeine alters dopamine and serotonin levels, the same neurotransmitters that regulate mood, motivation, and pleasure. In moderation, this can lift your spirits, but daily overstimulation creates imbalances that mimic anxiety, restlessness, and irritability. You start to rely on coffee not to feel good, but to avoid feeling bad. The brain's reward system becomes dependent. Its baseline shifts. You're no longer drinking coffee for energy. You're drinking it to feel normal. And when that cycle persists for years, the price is high. It's not addiction in the dramatic sense. It's biochemical captivity disguised as routine. The second major impact unfolds in your cardiovascular system. Every morning, your first sip sends caffeine rushing through your veins, constricting blood vessels and temporarily increasing blood pressure. In a young body, arteries expand and contract easily, absorbing that pressure. But in your 50s, 60s, and 70s, the arterial walls have lost some of their elasticity. Each surge becomes a strain, a microscopic stress on the vessel lining. Over time, those tiny stresses accumulate, inflaming the endothelium, the thin inner layer that keeps blood flowing smoothly. Once inflamed, it begins to attract cholesterol and calcium deposits. These form plaques, narrowing the vessels and forcing the heart to work even harder. You might not notice it immediately. Perhaps it's just that your morning walks feel slightly more tiring, or you feel your pulse in your temples after a strong brew. But inside, your cardiovascular system is adapting to constant stimulation. The heart's electrical rhythm can become more erratic, its beats harder to regulate. For those predisposed to hypertension or arrhythmia, caffeine magnifies the risk. And when paired with dehydration, another common morning mistake, the problem compounds. Thicker blood means more resistance. The heart must push harder through narrower passages. What was once a simple pleasure becomes a silent cardiovascular tax paid in heart strain and rising pressure over time. Meanwhile, your digestive system faces its own battle. Coffee, especially on an empty stomach, signals the stomach to release hydrochloric acid. This acid is meant to digest food, but when there's none, it attacks the stomach lining itself. Over the years, this repeated exposure weakens the mucosal barrier that protects your gut. The result? Chronic inflammation. You may not call it that. You might say, my stomach's just sensitive and sure, I get reflux sometimes. But the medical reality is that your stomach has been enduring micro-damage for years. That burning sensation? That's acid seeping through weakened defenses. And once that cycle begins, it's difficult to reverse. The downstream effects reach your intestines too. The gut microbiome, that complex ecosystem of trillions of bacteria, is deeply sensitive to acidity and stress hormones. Each time caffeine elevates cortisol, it also alters gut motility and composition. Beneficial bacteria decline. Inflammatory strains rise. Digestion becomes erratic, some days sluggish, others overly rapid. You might experience bloating, gas, or irregular bowel movements and dismiss it as aging. But much of it traces back to long-term coffee misuse. This imbalance even feeds back into your mood, because 90% of serotonin, the feel-good neurotransmitter, is produced in the gut. When the microbiome is off, your mood follows. You become more irritable, more fatigued, less resilient. The gut-brain axis becomes a constant feedback loop of stress and stimulation, drained by the same daily mistake. Then there's the metabolic impact, one that shapes how your body stores and burns energy. Each cup of coffee triggers a temporary rise in blood sugar, followed by a spike in insulin. Over decades, this constant fluctuation makes your cells less responsive to insulin's signal. It's the quiet prelude to insulin resistance. You might notice that your energy feels less stable, or that you're hungrier sooner after breakfast. You might gain a few pounds around the waist, despite eating the same foods. These are early metabolic shifts, warning signs that your body is losing control of its glucose regulation. For someone over 50, this is especially dangerous. The pancreas is less efficient, the liver slower to filter fats, and the muscles less responsive to glucose uptake. So every sugar-laden cup, every fasted coffee, becomes a tiny push toward metabolic dysfunction. It's also why caffeine and sugar together are a particularly volatile mix. Sugar spikes insulin, caffeine reduces insulin sensitivity, and together they cause the pancreas to overreact. The short burst of alertness comes at the cost of long-term imbalance. Over time, these fluctuations contribute to chronic inflammation, a low-level internal fire that accelerates nearly every degenerative disease: diabetes, arthritis, dementia, heart disease. You can't see it. You don't feel it. But it's there, simmering beneath the surface, waiting for a trigger, an infection, stress, poor sleep, to flare into something more serious. Let's turn to your sleep cycle, because that's where coffee's hidden impact often hides. Even if you fall asleep easily, caffeine alters the depth and quality of your rest. It suppresses deep sleep, the stage when your body repairs cells, balances hormones, and consolidates memories. Without enough deep sleep, your brain doesn't fully clear metabolic waste, your immune system weakens, and your emotional stability erodes. You wake feeling tired but wired, restless and foggy. Over time, this pattern compounds. You drink more coffee to fight fatigue, sleep even less deeply, and perpetuate the loop. It's not just tiredness, it's a chronic disruption of your body's most vital recovery mechanism. In the brain, the consequences are profound. During deep sleep, cerebrospinal fluid washes through neural tissue, clearing out toxins like beta-amyloid, the same protein linked to Alzheimer's. When caffeine keeps you from reaching that stage consistently, those toxins linger. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens gradually, invisibly. 1 decade of poor sleep becomes another, and memory begins to fade. You forget names, appointments, or where you left your keys. You blame age, but it's partly chemistry. Chemistry shaped by a habit you never questioned. And then there's the emotional toll. Living in a body constantly under chemical stimulation changes how you feel, think, and react. Your mornings start with an artificial rush, your afternoons with a crash. Your emotions follow suit, highs that feel productive, lows that feel empty. Over time, this pattern conditions the nervous system to seek stimulation over stillness. Peace feels boring, calm feels wrong, rest feels uncomfortable. You become addicted not just to caffeine, but to the feeling of being rushed, alert, engaged. It's the modern trap of productive anxiety, the illusion of energy masking exhaustion. When you pair that with aging physiology, the effects deepen. The body's tolerance for stress declines with age. Caffeine pushes stress hormones higher, and your recovery window shortens. The result is chronic tension, in muscles, in mood, Even in thought patterns, the shoulders stay tight, the jaw clenches, the mind loops. You can't relax even when you try. This is why so many older adults describe feeling tired but can't rest. Their bodies aren't lacking energy, they're drowning in adrenaline. Another layer of impact unfolds in your bone health. Caffeine increases calcium excretion through urine. For someone young, that loss is easily replenished. But after 50, when bone density naturally declines, that daily calcium drain becomes significant. Over decades, it weakens bone structure. For postmenopausal women, already at risk for osteoporosis, the effect can be quietly devastating. The very drink that helps you feel strong and alert each morning may be stealing your bone's strength in silence. Your liver also plays an unsung role in this story. It metabolizes caffeine through enzymes that decline with age. As these enzymes slow, caffeine lingers longer in the bloodstream. What used to clear in 4 hours now takes 6 or more. That means your afternoon cup may still be active at bedtime, subtly disrupting melatonin production. The liver, busy filtering caffeine, also handles hundreds of other tasks: detoxifying hormones, balancing cholesterol, processing medications. Each extra burden strains its capacity. This is why timing matters so deeply. Drinking coffee too late isn't just about sleep. It's about letting your liver rest too. And as the years pass, the cumulative effect of these systems under stress creates a picture that many accept as normal aging. Energy dips, digestion weakens, sleep lightens, memory dulls. But these aren't inevitabilities, they're consequences. They're the quiet results of a body pushed slightly out of rhythm every single morning by a habit it learned to love. The tragedy is that it's preventable. If most people over 50 understood how sensitive their systems had become, they'd change their coffee rituals immediately. They'd hydrate first, eat before drinking, avoid sugar, limit heat, time caffeine carefully. But culture teaches us that coffee equals vitality, that it's the fuel of focus, the symbol of productivity. So we sip away, unaware that we're borrowing from tomorrow's energy to pay for today's alertness. And yet, beneath this entire story lies a simple truth. Your body isn't broken, it's adaptable. Every imbalance caused by caffeine can be reversed with time and care. The nervous system can relearn calm, the heart can regain steadiness, the gut can heal, the sleep cycle can deepen again. But awareness must come first, the recognition that what you feel as energy might, in fact, be the sound of your body trying to keep up. You can almost imagine it, your cells whispering for rest, your heart asking for a slower rhythm, your digestion begging for protection. They don't need you to quit coffee, they just need you to listen. Now that you understand how each small mistake compounds over the years, let's slow down, because this is the part where the story shifts, from fear to hope, from depletion to renewal. The truth is, your morning ritual doesn't need to disappear, it just needs to evolve. Coffee can still be your ally, your comforting start, your small daily joy, but only when it works with your body, not against it. The beauty of biology is that it forgives, the body rebuilds, the brain resets, the heart finds rhythm again. All it needs is your cooperation, your willingness to listen to what it's been whispering all along. I'm not tired, I'm out of balance. So let's begin where every good morning should begin. Not with caffeine, but with water. After hours of sleep, your body wakes slightly dehydrated. Blood volume is lower, cells are craving hydration, and every organ is waiting for the signal that it's safe to wake. When you drink coffee first, that signal never comes. The kidneys start flushing water before they ever get the chance to rehydrate. But if you begin with a tall glass of water, cool, calm, unhurried, you send a message of restoration. You flush the liver, lubricate joints, thin the blood, and prime digestion. This one habit, simple yet powerful, transforms the entire cascade that follows. Coffee no longer enters a dry system. It enters a balanced one. The difference in how you feel within a week will surprise you. Once you've hydrated, give your body what it needs most: stability. That small protein-rich breakfast, something gentle, even if it's just a handful of nuts, a slice of avocado, or a boiled egg, creates a cushion for your stomach, and a slow release of glucose for your brain. When you add coffee after that, it no longer spikes adrenaline. It amplifies clarity. The stomach acid has food to work on, the pancreas has balance, and the nervous system reads caffeine as a mild stimulant, not a threat. You'll notice that your energy feels smoother, your focus steadier, and your mood less jumpy. It's not that coffee became healthier, it's that your body finally got the support it needed to handle it. Now timing. This is where most people go wrong. Your cortisol naturally peaks within 30 to 60 minutes after waking. If you drink coffee during that peak, you blunt it, and your body learns to depend on caffeine instead of its own rhythm. But if you wait, if you give yourself 1 hour, maybe 90 minutes, your internal energy system activates naturally first. Then, when you drink coffee, it enhances what's already there instead of replacing it. The result is profound. You feel energized without feeling anxious, alert without being agitated. It's harmony instead of conflict. Imagine the difference between a river flowing freely and one you force through a narrow pipe. That's the difference between aligned caffeine and forced caffeine. As for the heat, simply allow your coffee to rest for 2 or 3 minutes before you sip. The temperature drops below the threshold, where it can harm the cells of your throat or esophagus. That short pause becomes a ritual of mindfulness, a small act of respect for your body before the day begins. You're still enjoying your coffee, but you're drinking it consciously, not reactively. That distinction may seem small, but it changes the entire emotional texture of your mornings. You're not rushing to wake up. You're easing into awareness. Then there's what you add to your coffee. This is where transformation truly begins. Instead of sugar or flavored creamers, try cinnamon, a natural anti-inflammatory that helps regulate blood sugar and enhances flavor without calories. Or a dash of unsweetened almond milk, rich in calcium and gentle on digestion. If you prefer sweetness, raw honey or stevia in small amounts give you the taste without the insulin roller coaster. Each substitution lowers inflammation, stabilizes mood, and protects the heart. Over time, your taste buds adjust. The bitterness of coffee becomes its beauty again, the raw, earthy signal of alertness, rather than a dessert disguised as a beverage. For those who love strong coffee, moderation becomes your new superpower. You don't need to quit caffeine entirely. 1 or 2 cups, timed wisely, can still bring cognitive benefits, better focus, sharper memory, even reduced risk of neurodegenerative disease. The key is balance. Stop before you crave more. Listen to your body's energy curve. If you find yourself needing a 3rd cup just to stay alert, it's not energy you're lacking. It's rest or hydration or nutrition. Caffeine can no longer compensate for those deficits past 50. It only masks them. The relief comes when you finally stop asking coffee to do what only lifestyle can. And speaking of lifestyle, sleep is your silent healer. The best way to reduce caffeine dependence isn't through willpower, but through restoration. When your sleep deepens, your body produces more natural energy during the day, and the craving for artificial stimulation fades on its own. To help this process, stop caffeine at least 8 hours before bedtime. For most people, that means no coffee after 2 p.m. It may sound strict, but the difference in sleep quality is undeniable. You'll start falling asleep faster, staying asleep longer, and waking more refreshed. Within a week, you'll realize you need less coffee to feel good in the morning. The cycle reverses naturally. Another often overlooked piece of relief is movement. Caffeine works by stimulating the nervous system, but physical movement helps regulate it. If you feel jittery after coffee, walk, move your body. Let the adrenaline burn through your muscles instead of your mind. A short walk after your morning cup lowers blood pressure, stabilizes insulin, and resets cortisol. It turns coffee from a stress trigger into a performance enhancer. Over time, pairing caffeine with movement rather than stillness rewires your body's relationship to it. You no longer feel restless, you feel ready. That distinction can change your entire morning mood. For those dealing with sensitive digestion, there's relief in choosing how you brew. Not all coffee is created equal. Dark roast coffees contain slightly less caffeine and are less acidic, making them gentler on the stomach. Cold brew, too, is lower in acid than hot coffee. And if you use a paper filter, You remove compounds called cafestol and carwil, natural oils that can raise cholesterol in some individuals. These small tweaks turn your daily ritual from a potential irritant into a supportive habit. Your bones, too, can be protected with awareness. Every cup of coffee should be paired with calcium-rich foods later in the day, leafy greens, yogurt, or fortified almond milk, to offset the calcium loss caffeine causes. Adding magnesium supplements or magnesium-rich foods like pumpkin seeds, spinach, and dark chocolate also helps relax muscles and balance electrolytes lost through coffee's diuretic effect. When your body receives these minerals, your heart rhythm steadies, your blood pressure balances, and your nerves calm. You may find that what once felt like age catching up was simply mineral imbalance. If anxiety or irritability has crept into your mornings, replacing your first coffee with a soothing alternative once or twice a week can reset your system. Herbal options like chicory root, rooibos, or chamomile provide warmth and ritual without stimulation. On those days, notice how your body feels. The stillness, the gentleness, the clarity that comes without the buzz. You'll begin to recognize that energy doesn't always need to be sharp to be strong. Sometimes it's calm, sometimes it's steady, sometimes it's just quiet focus, and that's enough. And then comes the deeper healing, the one that doesn't happen in the cup, but in the mindset. Most people approach health as restriction. What they must stop doing, what they must give up. But the real transformation comes from addition, adding awareness, adding intention, adding self-respect to the smallest acts. Coffee isn't the enemy, ignorance is. Once you understand your body's rhythm, you can enjoy your coffee without fear, without guilt, and without harm. It becomes not a crutch, but a companion. You don't drink it to wake up. You drink it to honor a moment of peace before the day begins. It helps to see your morning as a dialogue. Your body speaks in sensations, a fluttering heartbeat, a dry mouth, a heavy stomach, a restless mind. Coffee is your reply. You can either silence those signals or respond with care. Drink slower, notice the taste, feel your heartbeat. Be curious about how your body reacts. Within weeks, this awareness alone can recalibrate your system. You'll start noticing that some mornings you don't even crave caffeine. You crave hydration or rest or a slower pace. That's not weakness. That's wisdom returning. If you've spent decades on autopilot, know this: your body never stopped working for you. Even after years of imbalance, it still adapts, still heals, still forgives. Within just 2 weeks of changing your coffee habits, hydrating first, eating before drinking, waiting an hour, reducing sugar, you'll feel the shift. Your mornings will feel calmer, your energy steadier, your sleep deeper, digestion smoother. It's not magic. It's biology given permission to do what it's always known how to do. There's even relief in ritual itself. Humans thrive on routine. It anchors us, gives structure to our days. So don't break your ritual. Refine it. Make it sacred. Let your first cup be a ceremony of awareness, not compulsion. Lightly stretch before you sip. Sit by a window. Breathe deeply. Feel gratitude for the moment. When coffee becomes an act of mindfulness instead of reflex, it no longer drains you. It centers you. That's when it transforms from stimulant to sanctuary. And if you ever doubt that these small changes matter, remember this: every great healing begins with something small. One glass of water, one slower sip, one mindful morning. The same way small mistakes once compounded into harm, small corrections now compound into healing. That's the beauty of biology and the mercy of it. The body always chooses renewal when given the chance. So let this be the start of a new relationship with your mornings. One built not on force, but on flow. You can still love coffee. You can still wake to its warmth and aroma. But now, you do it with awareness, with compassion for the body that's carried you through decades of days and still asks for so little in return. Because at the end of it all, coffee was never meant to be your energy. It was meant to be your moment. And once you reclaim that truth, relief isn't just possible. It's inevitable. You wake tomorrow morning. The light is soft, gentle through the window, and for the first time in a while you don't rush for the machine. You sit still for a moment. The air feels clearer. You take a sip of water. Stretch your shoulders. Feel your breath expand your chest. The day hasn't begun yet, but something inside you already feels different. It's not about the coffee anymore. It's about awareness. That quiet realization that you're no longer living on autopilot. You're not ruled by caffeine or fatigue or habit. You're awake in a way that no stimulant could ever give you. And in that stillness, a thought arises. This is what real energy feels like, because true energy doesn't come from what you pour into your body. It comes from what you allow it to restore. The best mornings begin not with a rush, but with respect. You start to understand that your body is not your servant. It's your ally. It's been whispering your entire life, through every palpitation, every night of poor sleep, every tight stomach, that it needs rhythm, not rescue. And now you're finally listening. The coffee in your hands is no longer a command. It's a collaboration. This is empowerment in its quietest form. Not the kind that shouts or forces change, but the kind that understands the value of small, consistent care. Because that's the truth about aging gracefully. It's not about doing more. It's about doing less, but doing it right. Drinking slower, sleeping deeper, breathing longer, listening sooner. Each small act is a vote for longevity. You begin to see your morning coffee for what it truly is, a mirror. Every sip reflects the relationship you have with your own well-being. Are you rushing? Are you restless? Are you seeking comfort or avoiding fatigue? The answer changes daily, and that's what makes this ritual so powerful. It's not just about the drink, it's about the dialogue. And the more honest you become in that dialogue, the stronger your health becomes. The people who live longest don't avoid everything that's risky. They simply understand the rhythm of balance. They know that stress and recovery are two sides of the same coin. That stimulation isn't the enemy. Misalignment is. You don't need to quit caffeine to thrive. You need to master it, to make it serve your rhythm, not steal from it. And that begins with simple awareness. When you drink, how you drink, what you pair it with, and most importantly, why. Over time, as your awareness deepens, you notice subtle changes. Your mornings no longer feel like a chase. The fog lifts faster. Your stomach feels calmer. Your energy stretches further into the day. Sleep begins to come naturally without struggle. These are not coincidences. They're confirmations. Proof that your body rewards respect with vitality. Proof that your energy was never lost. It was just trapped beneath years of imbalance. You begin to appreciate how interconnected everything is. The glass of water before coffee keeps your blood thinner, which eases your heart. Eating before drinking stabilizes your blood sugar, which steadies your mood. Waiting an hour respects your cortisol rhythm, which helps you sleep better at night. Each correction feeds into the next, creating a loop of wellness instead of a cycle of fatigue. You no longer need caffeine to feel human. You use it to enhance what's already human in you. And perhaps most importantly, you start to reclaim your mornings as your own. That's the hidden lesson in all of this. For too long, mornings belong to urgency, to alarms, to deadlines, to the caffeine-fueled race to feel awake. But the truth is, mornings were never meant to be rushed. They were meant to ground you, to remind you that being alive is already an accomplishment. The first breath, the first sip of water, the first thought of gratitude, these are the real awakenings. Coffee is simply the companion, not the cause. As days pass, your perception of time changes. You stop viewing health as something to chase and start seeing it as something to protect. You become less reactive, more observant. You begin to notice what each sip does to you. On some days, a single cup fills you with focus. On others, you stop halfway because your body already feels full of energy. That intuition, once dulled by routine, returns. You're not following a rule book anymore. You're following wisdom, your own. Empowerment isn't about control, it's about partnership. The moment you stop fighting your body's natural processes and start aligning with them, life begins to flow easier. You feel less resistance in everything, not just digestion or sleep, but in thought, in emotion, in daily rhythm. You stop trying to power through fatigue and start understanding it. You no longer see tiredness as failure. You see it as feedback. You learn to rest without guilt, to pause without panic, to exist without needing to perform energy. That's when health becomes not something you achieve, but something you embody. And this transformation extends beyond coffee. You start applying the same mindfulness to everything. The way you eat, the way you move, the way you think. You realize that your body has been communicating all along, and you simply needed to slow down enough to listen. You stop chasing energy from external sources, sugar, caffeine, urgency, and begin creating it from within. Through hydration, nutrition, sunlight, movement, sleep, calm. The very things that have always sustained life. The next time you hold your mug, you'll remember that this ritual, when done right, can still be sacred. You can still love the aroma, the warmth, the peace it brings. But now it's no longer a chemical fix. It's an intentional act of balance. You're not using coffee to escape fatigue. You're using it to enhance focus. You're not compensating for poor sleep. You're complementing good rest. You've turned your daily routine into a mindful art. And that's what true longevity is made of. Not fear of mistakes, but mastery of balance. The people who age with vitality aren't the ones who do everything perfectly. They're the ones who understand when to push and when to pause, when to stimulate and when to restore, when to say yes to energy and when to surrender to stillness. You've entered that phase now, the stage of wisdom where health is no longer a goal but a rhythm. Science will continue to evolve. New studies will emerge about caffeine, antioxidants, metabolism, and hormones. But what never changes is the truth that the body seeks balance. When you give it that, it rewards you with clarity, calm, and resilience. And resilience, not stimulation, is what keeps you young. Think of your morning from now on as a contract, a quiet agreement between you and your body. I'll care for you, one you say, and you'll carry me. Every time you hydrate, every time you wait that extra half hour before coffee, every time you choose nourishment over convenience, you're signing that contract again. You're proving that health isn't about perfection, it's about presence, about showing up for yourself in the small, consistent ways that matter most. You'll notice something else as this awareness deepens. Your relationship with time changes. You stop seeing life in decades and start living in mornings. Each sunrise becomes a new opportunity to support your body rather than fight it. And that shift, from anxiety to appreciation, is the essence of vitality. Because longevity isn't just about living longer, it's about living better, with awareness, stability, and gratitude. You may not realize it now, but what you're doing is revolutionary in its simplicity. You're rejecting the myth that energy must be chased, that stimulation equals strength, that busyness equals productivity. You're rediscovering the ancient truth that calm is power. That stillness sharpens focus more than caffeine ever could. That balance creates a kind of quiet radiance no supplement can replicate. So, as you sip your next cup, let it be slow. Let it be warm but not scalding. Let it come after water, after nourishment, after a gentle moment of stillness. Let it serve you, not control you. And know that in that simple act, you've done something extraordinary. You've taken back control of your mornings, your health, your rhythm. You've turned awareness into longevity. The body, after all, has one goal: to keep you alive with grace. Every beat of your heart, every breath of oxygen, every signal of thirst, it's all communication. The better you listen, the longer and stronger you live. Coffee, when respected, can be part of that harmony, a gentle companion on the road to vitality. So tomorrow, when you reach for your cup, don't just drink. Pause. Feel gratitude for the warmth, the comfort, the clarity, but also for the wisdom that brought you here. The wisdom to see that life's most powerful transformations don't come from grand gestures, but from subtle shifts in awareness repeated every single day. And maybe as you take that first mindful sip, you'll smile. Not because the coffee tastes better, but because you finally understand what it means to be awake. Truly awake, not just in body, but in presence. Not just in energy, but in peace. That's when you'll realize the power was never in the coffee. It was in you.